Welcome back, everyone. We're here today on episode 2181 of the Cabral Concept. Thanks so much for joining me here today. This episode is absolutely by popular demand. I've had so many people write in with this particular issue and a lot of comments all over social media as well. So what I want to do is kind of once and for all share with you why there is so much hair loss related to COVID, as well as other viruses, not just COVID. I'll explain why, but then also what we can do about regrowing that hair, or is it just lost forever? So I want to share that with you here today. It's going to be concise. It's going to be to the point because I've done complete hair loss shows for hair loss in general, what it means, how it happens, and what to do. And then I also did a very specific show on top hair loss causes for women, which is actually very different than men. So 90% of all men lose their hair. Okay, 90% of the reasons is because of DHT, dihydrotestosterone. That is not the case for women. That's actually a much smaller, very small amount, and there are different causes for both. So I'm going to link up those previous podcasts so I don't do a lot of repetitive talks, and then I can get you those for additional information, okay? So those links will be at stephencabral.com/2181, as well as any other takeaways for today's show. Just one more point that I do want to add is that since this is such a popular topic, in the future, I'm going to do an entire, essentially post on everything we know on why people lose their hair, what we can do about it, how to move it back into the anagen phase, which I'm going to share with you just in a moment, and then also all of the top products and growth strategies that people are using that are actually backed by science. So that will come in the future, no doubt about it, but it's easier for me to create a podcast because speaking and doing this on video is what I do every single day. So this is right away I can get the information to you, and then I'm going to create one long post, a conglomeration, I guess you could say, of all the different articles and research that I've shared with you in the past. So let's dive right into it. We are going to go through right now, essentially, we need to know the different phases of hair growth, then why having a virus moves you out of a hair growth-based phase, and then can that hair ever come back? Okay, so let's go over that. So the human head, all right, human head, let's say somewhere around puberty or so, is going to have about 100,000 hairs. It's interesting because, you know, when you look at the research for how many hairs someone has on their head, people with light hair, so blonde hair, about 150,000 hairs. People with brown hair, about 110,000 hairs. People with red hair, about 90,000 hairs. Now we're just talking about scalp hairs. The interesting thing is those actual hairs can differ as well. So my wife has some of the thickest hair that you'll see. It's dense, and she has an amazing hairline and thick curly hair when she wears a curly. And one of the things is too that the hairs themselves are actually thick too. And with some people, out of each, it's one follicle, but out of each, well, it looks like one follicle, you can have many hairs growing, which adds to much more thickness of the hair as well. So that's more of a, Kapha will have thicker hair. That's the body type in Ayurveda. Vata will have curlier hair. So that's kind of a combo that she has there. Pitta will have thinner hair. All right. So kind of when you're looking at the different hair types, we don't have to get too deep into that today. But you do need to know, though, that that hair starts to get thinner and can fall out over time. So, for example, like on the top of your head, for a male, let's say you might have around 20,000, maybe 25,000 hairs. Well, by the time you get into your 30s, most men are already starting to lose some hair. By the time men get to their 40s, 50s, they're definitely losing a larger amount of hair. By the time men get to 70, most men have lost a decent amount of hair, and some, and again, the ranges are somewhere like 25 to 35% do not have hair on the top of their head. That's for men. That's not supposed to happen for women, and the reason is the difference is dihydrotestosterone, called DHT. Okay, DHT is converted from testosterone to dihydrotestosterone. That dihydrotestosterone can cause thinning of the hair in the head, weakening of the hair follicles, and for the hair to fall out itself. It can also cause inflammation of the prostate, as well as other issues. We're not going to get deep into that today because I already explained that on a previous show that I will link up today at stephencabral.com/2181. What we need to know today is, why does COVID and other viruses cause hair loss? Okay, in order to fully explain that, you have to know the 3 phases of hair growth, okay? The anagen phase, so it's called anagen, A-N-A-G-E-N. Okay, they're all going to end with generation, growth of the hair. And so how you want to think of it like this: hairs will grow, and it's funny because like the follicle, the hair itself, the anagen phase is said to last around 6 to 8 years. Now, again, that's gonna wildly vary. It really is. But just understand that the reason why you still have hair on your head is that for the majority of the time, and it doesn't go for each hair, obviously, different hairs move in and out of the cycle, the hair is growing for 6 to 8 years. The best way to think of this is more of an analogy to our red blood cells in our body, okay? We have trillions of cells in our body. Every 90 to 120 days, at least the red blood cells, they are turning over. But it's not like 100% of all your red blood cells turn over on, let's say, the 120th day. No, some millions are turning over every single day. And then after 120 days, all of your red blood cells should have renewed, right? And then we keep starting the cycle over essentially every single day. Well, it's the same with your hair, right? So some hairs are falling out. We'll talk about what phase that is. And then some hairs are always regrowing. Okay, well, so basically there's an anagen phase where the hair is growing, all right? And that's why you get a haircut. Your hair grows at an average of about, most people, about 1/4 of an inch per month. Every 4 weeks, their hair will grow about 6 inches per year. So if you're ever thinking like, oh, okay, how long is it going to take to grow out my hair? It's about 6 inches per year for the average individual. Some people, of course, longer and some shorter, but that's the average. Okay, so that's the anagen phase. Now, during the anagen phase, there comes a point where the hair just knows, it's programmed inside the body, okay, it's going to stop growing. And then there's this 4 to 6 week, it's 1 to 2 months, where there's essentially a holding period. Okay, this is a transition period, a transitory period called the catagen phase. Okay, now that hair has stopped growing and it's about to fall out. Now remember, it's supposed to fall out. Okay, it makes room for new hairs that are growing, and so this is totally normal. And the last phase where the hair falls out is called the telogen phase. Okay, so the telogen phase is more what it's called a, let's say, resting phase. Okay, so it's not growing, it's essentially being shed, it's falling out. About 10 to 15% of the hair at any given time is in the telogen phase. But this makes sense, right? So out of the 100,000 hairs at any one given time, 10 to 15,000, okay, they're not going to be growing and they're going to be shed. But that's why it always looks like you have hair in your head for the most part. Again, unless you're losing hair for a particular reason. And that's because 80 to 85 to 90% of the hair is always growing, right? So that's why you don't see the hair necessarily falling out. Now, the average individual, the average person is going to lose about 50 to 100 hairs a day during the telogen phase, or there's actually a particular part where it's actually falling out called the exogen phase. Now, don't even worry about the exogen phase, having to remember that, because there's debate whether people want to call it that or not. There's 3 main phases: growing, transition, falling out. That's telogen, right? So exogen is just another fancier term for saying when it's actually being shed, when you're losing that 50 to 100 hairs per day. And this phase lasts about 2 to 5 months. Sometimes it can even last 5 to 9 months before those new hairs start to grow in. Okay, this is a period where the hair might start to look like it's thinning. So now you ask yourself, okay, well, what does any of this have to do with COVID and why I'm losing my hair after getting this virus? Let me share with you why that is. It actually has nothing to do with COVID itself. It has nothing to do with it. What it has to do with is a viral illness. Now, it could be bacterial, that is induced typically by a high fever. Okay, so a lot of people who didn't get the latest strain, I'm not even going to start to name the strains because I'm sure I might get banned or censored for that, even though I'm not saying anything negative about anybody anywhere in the world. What I want to share with you is this, is that anytime you get a high fever virus, okay, or again, bacterial infection, there is a big stress in the body. Okay, when that happens, the body, not everybody, right? Not everybody who got COVID has hair loss. The body begins to shift into a repair phase, a slowing phase, and a telogen phase. So it's not putting its resources towards that anagen phase. So a high stress or high fever can actually kick the body into that telogen phase more rapidly than it was supposed to. So that means you are changing essentially the epigenetic expression, if we want to use that for a term, of the hair growth because of an environmental factor, which was a virus that caused a fever, because that is your body's response to trying to kill a virus by raising body temperature to kill the virus that way through a thermogenic-based effect, as well as being able to speed up the circulation or flow of white blood cells through the body to kill the virus itself. So this is actually a normal process. It's happened before. Anytime that you get a high fever, doesn't mean for everybody, but a month or 2 months later, that can start the hair loss. So it's not actually within weeks necessarily of getting COVID. It's typically a month earliest to 2 months after. And this is called, so there's a medical name for this called telogen effluvium. And telogen effluvium is essentially not hair loss, but hair shedding. So this means that 2 to 3 months after having a fever or harsh illness, or believe it or not, really stressful event, that can do it too, the hair will begin to fall out. Now, this shedding, again, like I said, can last anywhere when it does not happen naturally from 5 to 9 months. So quite a long period of time. The problem is that many people that I know and have spoken with don't have enough hair on the head to go through losing not 50 to 100 hairs a day, but hundreds of hairs a day for 3, 5, 9 months. At that time, they would have lost a lot of hair. I mean, if we just start to like do the math, they could lose 2,000 hairs easily in a month, right? They could easily lose 500 hairs in a week, 2,000 a month for 5 months. What is that? 10,000 hairs. That's a lot of hair to lose on the head. And so that's why a lot of people are actually seeing these visibly noticeable results from the hair loss. And again, I've really made the commitment on this show to always be honest and truthful with you. And when I got the virus back in early October, and I was sick for about 3 to 4 days. Again, followed my protocols. I'm not going to talk about that today. And it was good to go. You know, again, like I was sick. It wasn't fun. I didn't enjoy it. I don't wish it on anyone. I had one of the 2 first more virulent-based strains. And you know, after 2 weeks, essentially, I was back to the gym. Everything was normal. I was bad for a week, 3 to 4 days bad. Took it easy for a week, eased into life that second week. I still worked the whole time. I still, you know, had to take care of my family, all those things. But, you know, again, it was not enjoyable, but I had a fever, but it was not a high fever, but it was definitely a fever. And so when I look at that, I say, okay. And then I started to lose clumps of hair, like clumps of hair. And I said, what is going on right now? And it just didn't dawn on me that it had anything to do, because it would have been 6 weeks prior to me having a fever, which I don't get a lot of fevers. I got a fever. I talked about this I can't remember exactly right now. I apologize, but it was somewhere around like maybe February or so, January, February of 2020. And I hadn't had a fever before that for a long period of time. And I know that might sound strange. But anyway, what I wanted to share with you is that I was shedding massive amounts of hair. I would shampoo my hair and there would just be clumps of hair in my hand. I would comb my hair even after the shower where hopefully the hair fell out. No, then hair would be falling on my shoulders. And this had never really happened before. So I said, okay, you know, let's figure out what's going on here. Why is this happening? What are the new things that I did with my diet, my nutrition, supplementation, different exercise? Like what was new? And I had to look at that. I'm looking at it. I'm like, okay, well, I'll change this variable, Didn't seem to do anything. Still losing hair. Okay, let me figure this out. Let me go back. What was different? What changed? Okay, yes, virus, fever, hair loss. This now makes sense. So this leads me to the next step. I'm definitely a male that would be more prone to losing my hair. There's no doubt about it. Like in my family, my dad's side, my mom's side, guys lose their hair. So I think I have to work a little bit harder to keep my hair because left to its own devices, as they say, I would lose my hair, no doubt about it. So I said, well, again, I'm not going to get into hair loss versus non-hair loss, good, bad, anything like that. Honestly, none of that matters. And I just want to say this, like, I'm good either way. I really am. Like, I think that's the way you just have to be in life. But I said, this is happening really fast. I'd actually like to just, like, if this is going to happen, I want to ease into it. I don't want this to be all at once. And I said, let me see if I can stop this hair loss. That was my first goal. That should be everyone's first goal. And so I'm going to present, like I said, I'm going to create a huge post on everything that I did. The good news is this: in about 3 weeks to 4 weeks, it had completely stopped, and now it's back to normal. So now my goal is to regrow any of that hair that I did lose. And we're talking about thousands of hairs, mainly on the back of my head. And I'll do before and afters. Again, like I said, I'm dedicated to being honest on this podcast. And if I'm not able to regrow it, what I did lose, that is what it is. I believe that I will be, because I believe it was induced by this telogen effluvium, which is different than a DHT loss, but we'll see, right? We'll see. But I'm certainly going to give it a go. And I can tell you this, that no matter what, you want to stop the hair loss, right? That's the main thing. So what do you need to do? Well, you need to shift back into the anagen-based phase. So that's what I want to share with you, the last part. And then, like I said, I'm going to write a massive post on everything that I've researched, that I know and I believe is the best out there right now. Okay, so first things first, you need to reduce whatever the stressors are. So first of all, if you're not well, we need to get you well, right? So like, that's very, very important. And hormonal balance to me is extremely important as well. Work with a lot of women that are having hot flashes. If you're not regulating body temperature very, very well, that means there could be an estrogen-based issue as well. Too much estrogen, too little estrogen can actually cause hair loss. So I would really look at that. That's very important. And for men, if you're producing a lot of testosterone, great. I tend to produce a good amount of testosterone. The bad news is you may be converting more to DHT. Okay, so that's not good news. Okay, what do you need to do? Well, you need to block that conversion from testosterone to DHT. Really, really important. Okay. So the other thing is a lot of people making the body more stressed because of lower calorie diets. Just be careful with this. Again, not going in depth on this today. Don't be super low calorie. Don't be super low carb. If you are losing your hair, it's one more stressor on your body. The second one is this: if you just gave birth months ago and you have a young baby, new baby, it is normal. I just want women to know that's normal. A couple months, your hair may potentially thin. A lot of it may potentially fall out. It does grow back. Okay, so that's just kind of putting the mind at ease there. The next one is this: poor overall sleep. If your body's not recovering, it can't be in more of an anabolic phase. Along the same lines, do not over-exercise right now, causing more norepinephrine, more cortisol, more stress that can all cause hair loss. Okay, couple more. Make sure you're using only natural-based products in your hair. Nothing harsh that would affect the scalp, right? Because the scalp is basically the soil. Make sure the soil is clean, moist. Use some natural oils on the hair itself. You can use sesame oil. You could use coconut oil. You could use jojoba oil. You want to, and I'll give you more tips on this as well, but you really want to make sure that scalp is being massaged gently, especially when you're losing hair, but also that it's just a good quality, that's staying tight, that it's not too dry. All these things are very important. Okay. A couple more is don't oversaturate your hair with hairstyling products. I only use natural products in my hair that you could literally eat. Things that have, I link it up. So it's on stevencabral.com/resources, but they just should be all natural. They really should. I use a product that has a little bit of bentonite clay. So clay with a little bit of coconut oil, some moisturizer in there as well. It's just a simple product to use. Anybody could use a product like it. And the last one I just want to share with you is just nutrition. It's so vitally important that your nutrition is on point if you want to have good, high quality hair. It's so important. You need to make sure on a daily basis that your hair is given everything it needs to grow. So that means enough carbs, enough fat, and enough protein. Some people are getting too little protein, some too little carbs. Most people are getting enough fat, right? So like it's just important to have all of those. The omega-3s are very, very important as well. You don't want too many, omega-6s. And then you also need those vitamins and minerals. So it's people like, well, which ones do I need? Well, you need all your vitamins and minerals. Okay, you need all of them. And that especially includes your vitamin C, your vitamin D, your zinc, your copper. Those are extremely important. Then you can add on more of the biotin and other items like that. So the products that I recommend always right out of the gate is just, if you do nothing else, a daily nutritional support, an omega-3 support, a immunity protocol, which has the C, the zinc, the copper, and the vitamin D in there. And then 2 other products, the advanced collagen support. Collagen is going to help with the hair, skin, and nails, especially the 3 patented versions in advanced collagen support. And then a product that is called Daily Hair Support. I'll talk more about that in the future, but you can find all of these at stevencabral.com/shop. Now, again, you can purchase products anywhere in the world that you like. I mean, that's the bottom line. But just look at the ingredients and the dosages I recommend, and then you can find the proper products that you like. And that's the best way to do it. And then again, I will also write down the different products that I've used and shampoos and hair growth oils and all those things that I used as well. So I will definitely fill you in all those and share all those in the very near future. I hope this was helpful. Again, I just wanted to give people always the reasoning behind why these things happen, because there's always an underlying root cause. It's never a mystery. Sometimes we just don't know what it is, but then we figure it out, right? We look at the research, we figure this out. And the good news is that the majority of people are going to be able to regrow that hair, and that's the good news. So feel free to let me know if there's any follow-up questions. I'll definitely answer them on a follow-up show. And again, in that post that I write in the future, it will certainly include everything from A to Z. And all the notes from today are at stevencabral.com/2181. I appreciate your time today. If this was helpful, please do feel free to share this with anyone you believe it could serve. Take care, everyone.